IVM.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to our new podcast called Heal and Hearty. I am your host, Rachna Chhachhi, not Chachi, cancer nutrition coach and nutritional therapist. I work across 24 countries helping patients reverse their diseases without medications. I will be taking you through the journey of how to heal yourself physically and emotionally from whatever you are suffering from. And yes, we did a cheeky take on Heal and Hearty so that you can be healed and hearty with us. Look around you. Look at yourself in the mirror. This is your dream job. This is your dream life, is it? But are you feeling it? Are you feeling the best you can be? Are you energetic, happy, jumping up from your bed every morning to greet the day with bursting energy? Most of us are not. And the reason for that is the building disease and inflammation levels inside us, rising levels of toxins, pollution, and inhuman load of stress that you are taking on in your work, relationships, and heart. And we all know that stress is the biggest trigger for diseases. So if you are scared of popping pills, want to live a great quality of life, this podcast is for you. We will help you understand how to overcome heart disease, type 2 diabetes, cancer, autoimmune conditions, and many other diseases with a better lifestyle and give you expert advice on what specifically to eat, drink, and do so that you can prevent, manage, and reverse your health issues. So let us deep dive into healing you. Go, prepare your green tea, and I will see you on the other side in just a minute of Heal and Hearty.
How many times have you motivated yourself to improve your sleep, or lose weight, or be more productive? How many times have you failed? Hi, my name is Ashton Doctor. Tune into my show, The Habit Coach Podcast, where we focus on creating small, tiny habits to improve your life instead of those big, impossible tasks. So make listening to me a habit every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com or on your favorite podcasting app.
Hello everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to Heal and Hearty, our series on helping you understand how you can put your health first and try not to be hospitalized. This is the introductory episode, and here we are going to focus on the compelling case for your quality of life. My name is Rachna Chhachhi, not Chachi. A lot of people think I'm Chachi because I heal people, but Chhachhi is my surname. And I am a nutritional therapist and a cancer nutrition coach. And I began my practice 12 years ago. I heal patients across 22 countries, specifically with autoimmune conditions, cancer, and lifestyle diseases. Why are we here and why do I do this? I do this without medication, and we would like to spread the message across to a lot of people out there who are suffering, and that is the reason for this show. And with me, I'm going to invite now Dr. Bhavna Gautam, who actually has pioneered in a lot of ways as an MBBS doctor with her different thinking. Dr. Bhavna, welcome to the show.
Hi Rachna, thank you for the introduction.
Dr. Bhavna is an MBBS doctor who did her Masters in Healthcare Administration for Hospitals from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. But after 7 years of being in clinical healthcare, she moved into emotional and mental well-being as a specialist. So why? Why did you do that?
I think, Rachna, I had met you sometime in 2012.
Yes.
Where I wanted to collaborate with you for a corporate wellness initiative. And that is when I realized actually that you were spreading a message which I genuinely believed deep down in my core, even as a medico, before I decided to move away from my clinical practice. There was a resonance that I found in the entire concept of the whole health and the whole person, rather than targeting diseases, targeting disorders, targeting symptoms, targeting signs. And so it has been a journey where after my clinical exposure, I always found that there was an element which we doctors were not looking at. And I could not pinpoint what that element was. We were sending away healthier patients, but we were not sending away happier patients. We were not sending away patients who knew what to do with their health next. We were always telling them, come back to us when something goes wrong. But we never equipped them to not come to us at all. For me, I believe that's what medicine should have been doing. Then after my exposure at TIS during my master's in healthcare, I realized that there's an entire element of health and wellness that we were not even looking at. A person from his social angle, a person from his emotional angle, a person from his financial angle, a person from his environmental angle, and how all of it contributed to making a person healthy.
You don't know, what this sounds like to the listener and to someone like me. This is like a ray of hope, because having doctors like you out there who actually understand the human being as a human being and not as body parts is very, very heartening.
And this was exactly where I actually, felt that you find your soul tribe, right? When you meet people like that, it just gives you that connect. And honestly, before we even proceed with this podcast, everybody needs to know that Rachna has had an amazing journey, which I believe everyone out there who still doesn't know what to do with their health needs to hear of. It's an inspiring journey. It's an amazing journey. It's something which will not just give you hope. It will give you that determination that it can be done. So, Rachna, why don't you actually tell us about your personal health journey?
Okay. So 13 years ago, I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, which is an autoimmune condition, and in Western treatments and medical science, it is termed as incurable. The immune system attacks these small joints and then moves on to the organs, and the treatment to bring relief supposedly is chemotherapy, drugs, steroids and immunosuppressants. So they suppress your immune system so that it doesn't attack you. I was in denial about the disease for quite some time before I actually went through the route of taking these drugs. And for about 8-9 months, I was stabilized with these drugs. But after that, they stopped working on me, and I started getting deformities on my hands and toes, which are still there. They're still mangled, but I'm quite proud of them. And the pain levels would be terrible. So I went from a typical globe-trotting senior corporate executive with a very bright future to being bedridden because of the pain and the deformities. And the doctors would just look at me and say, but this is the way the disease is progressing, and we are doing the best that we can. So that was not something that I was willing to hear. And my inflection point actually came when nothing was working and my hands were paining so much that my husband couldn't even hold my hand. And they injected steroid injections into each of my knuckles and wrists and one elbow. And I passed out for 3 days. I am told I didn't pass out. I am told I was there at home by my husband and daughter and family, that I was doing my normal jobs in terms of going to the bathroom or eating, but I have no recollection. I passed out, and it is the third day when I came around. I was, I guess, brain fogged out. I woke up, and the first thing I noticed was a mass of hair fallen on my pillow. I'd lost most of my hair in any case to the chemotherapy drugs, and the steroid injections also took their toll. And that's when I just stood up and I said, I am not going to live like this. It was extremely foolish. Let me tell you, when I look back and when I treat patients now with rheumatoid arthritis, I just tell them, don't stand up and say this, because I actually took all my medications and flushed them down the toilet. I didn't even want a stray dog to have them.
But I believe all major breakthroughs in life happen from something as foolish or as stupid. Somebody's got to do that stupidity, which I think you did. But what is it that made you do not belong to the medical field? You were a patient like any other patient in so much of pain and trauma. What made you say, okay, not the doctors, I am going to treat myself?
So, first of all, I didn't find the doctor logical. That was when you're going to someone for treatment, you need to respect them.
Right.
I was going to him, and he, today when I look back, it is the limited knowledge and training that they have, but I had a lot of anger at that point in time. I went to him and I kept asking him that there must be something else, there must be something that I'm doing wrong with my life. It's an inflammatory disease. I had read up enough to know that it's an inflammatory disease. I had, there were books, the search engines were just about starting online at that point in time, and there was enough data available. So I started using logic and telling him that, okay, inflammation, if I change my food habits, have an anti-inflammatory diet, will that help? He said no. The only two things that flare up, rheumatoid arthritis is coffee and cigarettes. The first thing that I did when I got up that day and said, I am not going to live like this, is order a cup of coffee. I know that coffee triggers the pain, but I needed a clear head without the brain fog to start thinking of how to capture my life back. So yes, that was the trigger point for me to say I will take charge of my life because I trust my own brain more.
So how long was your journey of healing yourself?
8 months.
In 8 months, you could actually heal yourself.
Clinically
So, reverse your...
Yes. So I started slowly with small lifestyle changes. More salads, more olive oil, a little bit of cheese versus lots of cheese. I didn't take out gluten immediately. I started with smaller changes, then I started getting into yoga. And over the next few months, I began living almost like the Sattvic life. So when I was hungry, I would have nuts. When I was, or I would have fruits. And at meal times, it would be 80% vegetables and salads. But my reversal actually happened after I started increasing my pranayamas, the breathing exercises, to 25 minutes every day. That was what actually led me to the final destination of being clinically RA free, even from my reports perspective. My anti-CCP, my RA factor, my ESR, my C-reactive protein, they were all in range.
So if you put it in very simple terms, you actually just fit the entire jigsaw by yourself to make the complete picture, with yoga adding the final...
With pranayama adding the final.
With pranayama adding the final outcome.
Yes, but I think I was lucky. It was a hit and try, and I was lucky to desperate because of driven by my pain, to find something, and also cognitive of how my own body and mind was reacting to various foods, and I just followed that through. So I was lucky, and I till the time I was 80% pain free, I was doing 20 counts of Anulom Vilom and 10 counts of others and all that. The moment I sat down for 3 weeks at a stretch every single day, doing the 25 minutes every day, and then I got my blood test done.
There was a drastic
Oh, it was completely drastic.
Now, we all hear stories about people having their personal battles with different types of ailments, cancers and heart diseases and diabetes. And it stops there, right, with their personal battle. What made you decide that, no, I have got to move to another level and take this word out to every single person who's suffering like me?
It was the disease and the pain. If you go through something which is so painful, I remember I had a 36-hour labor with my daughter. It was a cakewalk in comparison to what I went through. And I just felt that if I am able to reverse it for myself, there is that 1% population that is suffering like me. At that point in time, 12 years ago, it was 1, supposedly. Today, the number of autoimmune conditions is much higher than 1%.
Yeah, because I'm sure people do not even know that they have an autoimmune condition.
Yes. No, and the diagnosis...
the diagnosis doesn't tell them it's an autoimmune condition. True.
Yeah. So at that point in time, I started with a very small so-called niche goal of saying there is that 1% population that is suffering like I suffered. Why don't I just study again and get myself certified, because I can't do a one-size-fits-all. Just because it worked on me doesn't mean it will work on somebody else. So I actually did my nutritional therapy. I quit my corporate job. I did my nutritional therapy, so that I could understand. Like you said, I don't come from a medical background. And I began to understand the role of physical and emotional nutrition on the body, and I could correlate it back to my own journey. So, there are a lot of people I know who do such courses, but they can't correlate it back. So a large part of what helped me heal other people, and today also helps me heal other people, is the empathy of the pain.
Yeah, your own personal journey through the entire thing.
Yeah. So at that time it was a small goal. It's snowballed very quickly because it's 1% RA, 1% multiple sclerosis, 1% veganers, 1% ankylosing spondylitis, and the whole thing, there are hundreds of autoimmune conditions. It all adds up to 10 to 12% of the population suffering on a daily basis with absolutely no hope for a cure.
And what is interesting is I would like to point out that while I knew Rachna much before we really started working together, it was my diagnosis with a very small inflammatory condition, which is reflected as a small it was a small lesion on the skin. Yeah. And the minute I got a confirmed diagnosis on it, that it is actually an inflammatory condition, I realized, what am I opening my body up to? Because with inflammatory conditions, there is no one disease which can be cured. It can affect any organ. It can affect in any which way. It can cause symptoms which you probably would not even understand are an inflammatory condition. And the minute I got diagnosed, I remember meeting Rachna and ensuring that I brought about that lifestyle change so that single skin lesion would not progress to an anti-inflammatory disorder. So I do realize the kind of change you can bring about only if you have that awareness and you have that intention that this needs to get controlled before it becomes a medical condition.
Yes. So actually, when you came to me we started with your treatment, it was a lot of people told me, and there were a lot of doctors and still are a lot of doctors who come to me where it was a case of the doctor coming to the healer.
Right.
So here I am this grey area person who medically, when I treat a cancer patient, I am told by the oncologist that we don't have any proof of your treatment. And then on the side, you are one of those rare ones who stands up openly and says that you need to nourish your body and mind, and you do that with all your patients as well. But at that point in time, not everybody was respectful for what I did. I used to get a lot of these jibes around, okay, this is her next hobby kind of stuff. And it was people like you, I guess, somewhere who brought credibility to what I did.
And it's a genuine case with the entire healthcare system. I think what really took me off the clinical field was this myopic view, that there has to be only this treatment. I remember as medical students, we would open up those textbooks and it was so simply given over there that a disease has these reasons for showing signs and symptoms in your body. And I used to wonder, if it is that simple, then why isn't every single person cured of it?
That's true.
If it was so easy to tell somebody that there are 5 reasons why you get a cardiac disease, why are we not able to tap into it and ensure that nobody ever gets a cardiac disease? That's because we never agreed that there were certain areas which were left vague and never addressed. For example, I remember so distinctly that every single disease, as a causative factor, stress was mentioned. But there was not a single professor, probably I didn't come across any, who would tell us the huge role that this one single causative factor could cause. And today, science has taken us back to a level where it says it starts from there. Starts from there.
Absolutely. And you're talking about cardiovascular disease. There is a center run by Dr. Dean Ornish in the US. He's a cardiologist, and for the last 30 years, he's been proving to the entire world that you don't need to get a bypass surgery done. You can just correct your lifestyle, do some yoga, do some pranayam, and reverse your health condition.
Yes.
So, it is covered by insurance. So, which means statistically, it is tried and tested. Clinically, it has been proven.
I think he went through his own. It's a cycle. I believe the West usually learns from the basic sciences that we had produced, probably centuries back. They use it. Once they get the credibility, we decide, okay, now I think it's time for us to use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's true. So the number of diseases that actually have their grounding and foundation in lifestyle issues is about 90%, including cancers. So today, when we are looking at the treatment options that are there in the medical system, those treatment options never actually go back to the lifestyle causes. So if there is a trigger, like you said, there are 5 triggers to X disease. If you go back to the triggers and correct the triggers, then the disease itself goes away unless if it is an infection or, something that requires an emergency situation, like you get run over by a bus or something. Most lifestyle conditions are type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, obesity, depression to a large extent. They are all caused because of the environment we are in, because of how we are living with each other. And you and I have together treated so many patients, where they come to me for the physical nutrition aspect and, go to you for the counseling aspect. And we've realized that we don't need medications to treat these conditions.
Absolutely.
So a large part of what we are doing here today, with not just this episode, but this series and in the next few episodes, is we are going to actually discuss how without medication you can make your quality of life better. So there are no side effects of medications that people will experience, and there are people who have actually reversed their type 2 diabetes, reversed their heart blockages, hypertension, of course autoimmune conditions and certain types of cancers.
And I think the important fact you had highlighted in one of your workshops was when everybody stood up and said the genetic contribution to the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think what was relevant that you pointed out was that the genetics would contribute to just 5% of your entire cause of this entire thing, and it can be reversed, irrespective of it being a genetic disorder.
Bhavna, I deal in epigenetics, so the entire approach of my treatment actually is epigenetics is basically, for listeners, is basically a science where you change the gene expression with your lifestyle, and it is successful, and now it is clinically proven that 95% of diseases can actually be cured with epigenetics.
Epigenetics, absolutely. Yes. I think another interesting concept that you spoke about right now was the quality of life.
Yes.
Which medical science, we have a formula. I remember being taught about the quality of life formula, but nobody really gives you what, in essence, quality of life really means.
Yeah.
I think someone like you who meets chronic ailment patients, I meet patients who have lifestyle disorders and chronic disorders for years together and under treatment. When they come to you, you realize that the treatment may be working on the symptom. It is not letting him function as a whole human being even then.
Yes, totally. So well put. Yeah.
And that is the concept that I think most people who are undergoing the treatment miss out to. They're happy going through the treatment.
Yes, you look at somebody with type 2 diabetes, they are unaware of the fact that at some point in their lives, their kidneys are going to pack up. At some point in their lives, they are going to be prone to cancer. These are things that when they start the treatment, nobody ever tells them. Nobody ever tells them that you can actually reverse type 2 diabetes with...
And get off the medications.
Yes, I have done this time and time again. In fact, that is so much more easier for me to do than somebody coming to me with an autoimmune condition.
Yeah. Even the treatment part, when doctors, promote a certain medication for a lifestyle disorder, what nobody really points out to is the side effects of these medications.
Yes.
Totally. Like you just pointed out that you're opening yourself up to a whole host of other disorders because of the toxicity of the medications that you are taking. Something as simple as statin drugs have been found to have a link with depression.
And type 2 diabetes.
Yes. Now, who informs a patient taking these drugs that, watch out for the symptoms of something else which may come in because you're getting treated for one ailment?
Yeah, and the worst part is the entire apathy, because the patient will just turn around and say, it's okay. There are so many people who take it. I'll also take it.
Absolutely.
Instead of saying, why should
this is not acceptable.
Yes.
Why should it be this way? Absolutely.
Yeah. We were talking about obesity earlier. And obesity is one of the highest risk factors for cancer. Something that can so
every other metabolic disorder too. Obesity is just one by itself. It can be
Take a wild guess. How many obese people are there in India? Wild. 100 million.
That's almost what? 1/3 of the population?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. From a third world poor country, this is where we are leading up to. And this entire thing about we have low cancer rates actually proves that we are in denial. There are 100 million people in India who are at risk of getting cancer. We are sitting on an epidemic.
We're sitting on an epidemic, absolutely.
For what reason?
Yes.
Because we are not willing to change our lifestyle.
So what is interesting about these stats is every time I think a statistics gets posted, like for example, India is one of the leading countries when it comes to mental health issues like depression.
Yes.
People think these ailments are occurring in silos.
And to somebody else.
Yeah, and to somebody else. So people don't understand a person undergoing chemotherapy, a person going through, type 2 diabetes. I work with a lot of young kids who are type 1 diabetics too. They don't understand depression comes as a parcel package with any of these disorders.
And I'll say this openly. I was depressed when I was undergoing my rheumatoid arthritis because in any of these conditions, there is this feeling of frustration, helplessness. Why me? I've broken many phones on my husband. The poor guy is an angel. But
and that was part of the therapy, so
yeah. But all of this, like you rightly said, it links back to saying, don't treat the symptom, treat the person holistically.
Absolutely.
And it is for people to stand up and say, we are not going to reach a stage where our dependency on medications is going to eat up our quality of life.
Yeah. I think people now are moving back. They're at least getting information to prove the fact that there's a mind-body connect, there's a thought-behavior connect, there's a belief system behavior connect. And somewhere all of this needs to get linked with your disease and your disease management.
I think that is the purpose of our next few episodes now, that we are going to talk about how these diseases have the linkages, how to systematically overcome these. We will invite a lot of people in the studio who have overcome these diseases, whether it is an autoimmune condition, cancer, type 2 diabetes, cardiovascular disease, depression, obesity, and how they are living proof that you can take charge of your life and get rid of your health issues without medications. So we'll take a break and we'll come back on the other side.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another awesome week on the IVM Podcast Network. If you are not following us on social media, please make sure you do. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. After crossing 10,000 on Instagram a couple of weeks ago, this week we crossed 5,000 followers on Twitter. If you aren't following us on Twitter, please do. Make sure that you see all the cool stuff that we put out there. We do some cool stuff on social media just generally. You should check it out. This week we are launching a new show called Heal and Hearty. It's hosted by Rachna Chhachhi, nutritional therapist and certified cancer coach. She helps you understand the right nutrition, exercise, and lifestyle that keep diseases away. Show premieres on Tuesday, 15th October. In case you missed it, do check out our daily policy podcast called All Things Policy. It's hosted by the researchers at the Takshashila Institute who break down complex economic and geopolitical ideas through the lens of current affairs. New episodes are out every single day. It's a fun show. Do check it out. On Cyrus Says, Cyrus is joined by Devika Mandrekar. She talks about being obsessed with the TV show Friends, the joys of being a chef, and growing out of the shadow of her father, Sanjay Mandrekar. The Simplified Gang received a lot of questions from you guys, forcing Chuck, Naren, and Shrikit to record a second part of their special 150th episode. Make sure you tune in. On The Habit Coach, Ashton talks about the Hawaiian practice of reconciliation, forgiveness, and how phrases can impact your life. On GBCD, Sunetra and Farhad reminisce about school and discuss the effects of being bullied because of one's queer identity. On the Edges and Sledges Cricket Podcast, Ashwin, DJ, and Varun deep dive into the first test between India and South Africa. On the Pragati Podcast, Anne Devereaux joins Pawan to share how NASA and JPL plan and manage interplanetary missions. On Boundless, Natasha reads poems on the themes of stepping outside of your comfort zone. On Pesa Vesa, Anupam is joined by Samant Sikka, Chief Dream Officer at Squirrel. They have an interesting conversation about how his team came up with the name. And with that, let's get on with your show.
So we are back, and we left the discussion last on the entire health and hospital controversy. Another thing that I want you to address, Rachna, is you get patients from both sides of the spectrum, right? There are patients who've been through years and years of treatments and through the entire medical structure, spending money in every high-end diagnostic, then coming to you saying nothing else worked, please help us, versus patients who come to you saying we never want to go to, a rigid hospital system, we need something more holistic, and they approach you. Where do you think this entire difference lies in their approach?
People who come to me have suffered like crazy and have tried everything. So that's a given. When I say they've tried everything, I'm talking about not just medical treatment, I'm talking about Ayurveda, I'm talking about going to some Baba somewhere and all that, and then they've given up, and then somehow they hear about me or read about me and they come. The issue is, number one, you will never do anything like change your lifestyle till you are not at your wit's end or against the wall. Number two, frankly, they have exhausted all their financial resources. It's extremely expensive to go to a doctor for cancer treatment, getting a bypass surgery done, getting dialysis done, and then when they have exhausted that, they come to me and then they find my small poultry fee expensive and they say, oh, can you give us a discount? So that's pretty ironical. But you've raised a very good point, because if you compare the cost of hospitalization, and you've been in hospital administration as well, Bhavna, in comparison to that, the investment of nurturing your own mind and body is actually minuscule for the results that you get.
And it's a lifetime implementation, right? It's
Absolutely.
Not something which will only affect a certain disease for a certain period. It's your entire life, throughout your life.
Oh yes. And at whatever age, it doesn't matter.
At whatever age, absolutely.
I've treated 9-year-old kids with autoimmune conditions. I treated my own father with stage 4 prostate cancer, and he was 74 at that time. He's 80 years old today, and he's very healthy, touch wood, roams around the world, enjoys his red wine. It is actually, not dependent on what stage of life you are in, what gender you are, which country you are from, what race you are, and what your age is. At any stage that you stand up and say, I want to get a better quality of life, you can do that.
And that should have been the aim all throughout, right? For treatment of any ailment, that should be the aim. That I also have a patient who enjoys life to the fullest with whatever support structure I'm providing, which I think somewhere the entire healthcare system fails to provide, the allopathy healthcare system.
Yes, but that is also the flaw of the education and training system.
Absolutely.
Of that. I don't think we should just lambaste doctors and say that, oh, they don't understand. What were they made to understand in medical school? You yourself.
True, we never had subjects. I believe today that there should be subjects like empathy. There should be subjects like viewing a person from a more holistic pattern. So, for example, I tell a patient, oh, please go eat healthy. Do I know whether financially he's enabled to eat healthy? Does he have a social structure available which will let him eat healthy? Who cooks for him?
Right.
And you pointed out a very interesting idea about the cost part. When they come to you and they talk about your sum being too high for them to manage, people forget, being a healthcare administrator, I used to realize that when you look at the cost of hospitalization, it is not just the cost of treatment. How many working days have you lost just because you had to visit a hospital?
Yes.
How many working days your support structures, your wife, your children, your spouse, how many days did they lose just sitting out there outside the ICU waiting for you to get better?
And how much of the emotional trauma is it
associated with it? And
absolutely.
After you go back, it doesn't just revert automatically.
I refuse to believe that however well or not well you are doing, you're prepared to spend lakhs on doctors and hospitals, but you're not willing to increase the number of vegetables and fruits in your plate. I'm sorry, I'm
as
not willing to even
yes.
entertain that.
And they would come to you if they honestly need an overhaul, because I've experienced the treatment with you. They would need to follow up with you for 3 months, 4 months. So honestly, you're investing 4 months out of an entire lifetime to really learn how to be healthy and happy.
Yes, and it is not just 4 months of your lifetime to cure your disease, but also to learn. I do a no holds barred transfer of knowledge.
Absolutely.
And even the coaches that we are building across the world, who we are certifying, have that same empowerment to actually do a transfer of knowledge to the patient on how to lead their lives for the rest of their lives.
For the rest of their
lives. And not
lives.
need that doctor, need the medical treatments if they follow through. There's a big if over there, because a lot of people end up falling off and saying, I'd rather pop a pill. It's okay. You have to respect everybody's choices.
Absolutely. It's a choice at the end. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So we have to respect that choice, and you can't hold people responsible. But when somebody is actually going through a disease that is physically or emotionally debilitating,
Yes.
that is the time that they get up and they say, sorry, I am not going to live like this. And that is when the strength comes to start changing your lifestyle.
Absolutely. I think
this show is actually for them.
Yeah. That respect that you give yourself, the respect you give your body,
Yes.
and say that this is not the means and end of everything.
Yes.
It has to be better than this. I think that should be the turning point.
It is actually like walking away from a toxic relationship.
Yes,
Saying,
totally.
Yeah, that I'm not willing to
That there's
take
more
this.
to life than just going through this cycle.
Yes,
True.
So all of you listening in who have been through emotional, physical toxicity of any kind or any kind of suffering, and you want to get certain solutions which are holistic solutions available with us, please do tweet to us on RachnaRestores. That's one word, at RachnaRestores, RachnaRestores, and we will take up your issues in our episodes in the future. We are coming to the end of the show, Bhavna. It's been extremely invigorating chatting with you.
Yeah, I genuinely want to thank you for finally taking this exciting plunge in spreading the message of wellness and holistic wellness across.
Well, you and I together physically could not see so many patients.
Absolutely.
So I think this is a great platform. So as a closure, guys, there are just a few key takeaways so that you can come back the next time with your questions being tweeted to us, and you can listen to some of the responses, answers. We will be calling in more experts. We will be calling in patients. The show is for people who understand the aspect that more and more people are falling sick because of our lifestyle, because of emotional distress and the toxins in our environment, in our water, in our vegetables. And by the time you actually get diagnosed, it is important to understand that correcting your lifestyle will make 50 to 80 and in some cases 100% of the disease disappear. And if you are willing to do that, then this show is for you. That is the reason that we've started the series for you, to help take charge of your life and put your quality of life over your bank balance. If you like our podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on our social media. We are at IVM Podcasts on Twitter and Instagram. And if you want to reach out to me, I am at RachnaRestores on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram. That was the wonderfully sensitive Dr. Bhavna Gautam, who made me cry just a wee bit. We are at the end of this episode of Heal and Hearty. And in the next episode, we are going to have a 53-year-old wonder boy who has been walking around for the last 4 years with 90% blockages in his heart. Yes, you heard that right. Deepak was diagnosed with 90% blockages in his heart at the age of 49, decided not to go under the knife or do bypass surgery. So how is he living today? What is his quality of life? Why did he take this drastic decision? Don't forget to tune in on our special episode on heart health and understand how you can reduce your risk of heart disease. DM me on RachnaRestores on Instagram to register for it so that you can protect your heart. I will catch you next week, same time. Don't forget to do some deep breathing and express gratitude to the people you love. Catch you.
Did I just catch you on your way to work? Or did you end up pulling an all-nighter? Let me guess. You have a packed schedule for the day, the week, and probably the month and the year. That's a lot for your mind to handle, don't you think? This buzzing chaos also brings tons of negative thoughts. Am I right? Try spinning that bottle in a positive direction with me, Chetna, on the Positively Unlimited podcast, every Monday on IBM Podcasts. It's time to change your life one alphabet at a time.
Hi, my name is Anupam Gupta. I'm B50 on Twitter. I am the host of Paisa Vaisa, a show that talks money. On my show, I speak to experts from every field of money and finance, from stock markets, equities, debt funds, credit cards, life insurance, every possible area of money and finance that you can think of. We even did an episode on cryptocurrency. I've got fantastic guests from mutual funds to personal finance experts everywhere. Robo-advisory, startups, just name it, we've got it. At Paisa Vaisa, we help you make smart decisions about money. You work hard for money. Now make your money work hard for you. New episodes out every Monday, and you can listen to my show on the IVM Podcast app or any other podcasting app that you have.